in essence, well, folks, when we dimensioned, how did we do it? We did chain dimensioning or datum dimensioning, right?
Yep.
And we did linear dimensions. That's kind of what we want. That's the most accurate. It's easier for our building force to deal with. So how do we dimension? You're going to use primarily 3 tools constantly. Dim linear, dim continue, dim baseline. When do you use them? How do they affect? Now, we looked at all the variables for linear and continue yesterday, whether you knew it or not. There is one variable I want to make sure you're aware of. Not that you're going to change it, just where it's at in case your employer says we do this differently. I'm going to jump into my dim style dialog box, so if you would do that, just hit D, enter if you don't know what it is. Go into your Mech 1, and then just hit modify. We're not going to change anything, I just want to show you where this is at. Under the Lines tab, see this baseline spacing right here?
Yes.
What's it set to?
3/8.
3/8. Okay, so we go a 1/2 inch for our first one, and then 3/8 on all successive ones. This only works with dim baseline, this variable. Doesn't work with dim continue, doesn't work with dim linear, dim aligned, any of those. Only with dim baseline. Okay. But that's where the variable is. So if your employer changes this, the nice part about them having it here, it's annotative, right? So that second line, if I'm doing it, well, let me kind of set this up before I make a bad statement again. All I want to do is show you where that was at. Okay. Now, let's say I'm getting ready to dimension the top of this character. And I decide I'm going to use chain dimensioning. We want the first one off a 1/2 inch. So what you might want to consider is whatever your high spot is, start your dimensioning there. Okay? Or I can come in and do an offset on this and give myself a snap point. We kind of covered that yesterday a little bit, right? How to get that first one off. So you can do either or. Now you always start these with dim linear. So I'm going to come up and choose dim linear. I'm going to get to that long one. And I'm just going to click here, here, come straight up and type in 0.5. And it's going to place the dimension. Now, if I'm using chain dimensioning at this point, okay, so on chain dimensioning, I know I'm going 1, 2, 3, they're all on the same level, and I'm not going to do the end one, right? I'm going to give the overall instead. So I'm going to use dim continue. Okay. So it's right up here on your annotate ribbon under your dimension. You see where it says dim continue? Okay. So I click on that. It automatically remembers the last one you did. Okay. So now, all I do is come along and hit these points. Now it takes 2 escapes to get out of this command, or 2 enters, whichever you choose. And I should now be looking at this. Now notice you didn't have to set a height again. It automatically figured out where this one was and kept everything on the same height. Now, how do I get the last row on? Now you use dim baseline to place the next one. So I'm going to come back up to dim continue. There's a little a fly out on that. I'm going to click that down and choose dim baseline. Now, here's something, and dim continue and dim baseline work the same way. Look where it's coming from. It's saying, oh, here's the last dimension you placed, so I'm going to go to dimension line or extension line 1 and work from there. Both of these have a select option down here if you hit enter, and you're going to have to use this. So I'm just going to hit enter. I'm not going to click a button. Right? You could click your right mouse button if that's the enter key. And then go back and select where you want to pull from. I want to pull from right here. And I'm going to click on that extension line. It now pulls my dimension from there, and I place the last one. And it's going to keep going. Just hit enter again. You've got to go twice, or escape twice to get out of the command. Okay. Now, I just want to make something apparent. So I use dim linear, dim continue, dim baseline. How many extension lines do I have right here? I'm just asking a question.
1,
Looks like I got one, but in reality, I have two. One for this dimension, one for that dimension. How many do I have right here?
No, two.
Just two.
Just two.
Okay. But I've got two on every one of these. Okay. Except for this one, I've got just one. Yeah, and here I got one. Okay, I just wanted to point that out because this is going to come up. All right, now, that's chain dimensioning. What if you wanted to use datum dimensioning? Okay. When you use datum dimensioning, again, start with dim linear. So I'm going to go back, I just deleted all my dimensions. I'm going to go back and choose dim linear. I'm going to place my first dimension. And I get that a ½ inch off. Now, if I'm doing coordinate dimensioning or datum dimensioning, I don't use dim continue. Go right to dim baseline. Again, you're going to have to use the select button because it's going to reference off of the wrong extension line. Okay, so just hit enter to get into select, choose your first, and then I'm going to throw this out. Okay. And I now have coordinate or datum dimensioning, which AutoCAD calls baseline. Is that enough terms for the same thing? Okay. Let me ask you a question now. How many lines do I have right here now?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, I got a bunch of them. The printer is going to print all those lines. Okay. This is a variable that I use quite frequently. Generally up to 3 lines, I don't really worry about it when I got 3 of them on it because it's probably more economic for my employer not to go in and mess with these, okay, as opposed to doing it. Okay. Now, the way I would generally do it, if I get more than around 3 and I see this coming, is I set this up with some variables. Okay. And I'm going to kind of introduce a new term for you called override, dimension override. You can do this a couple different ways, but mostly it's coming off of the command line. Okay, so we're going to actually set this guy up. Now, I'm going to use baseline dimensioning. And I don't want to print 6 lines on top of each other. That's not much of an issue with today's laser jets because it's placing, 6 lines, but in the old dot matrix days, the thing would be all wavy and bleed a ton of ink on it. It will still happen with these if you start getting about 5, 6 lines up to 15 stacked on each other. And besides that, it's just bad drafting. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually turn off all the extension lines as we place these. Okay? And we're going to override our parent or our Mech 1 dimension style. So I'm getting ready to go. What I'd like you to type is dim SE1. DIM SE1. Okay. And what have I done here? Let me kind of show you what I've done. So I'm just going to draw. Here's my first pick point. It's right here. Now, when you click a dimension, AutoCAD considers 2 components. This would be my first point. This would be my second. Okay, when it does the first one, what it's going to say is this dimension line, everything on this side is dimension line 1. This is extension line 1. The second point that I click, this is extension line 2, dimension line 2. Okay, so it kind of breaks that out, and it's based on where you digitize your points. The same way you do a line, right? It considers point 1, point 2, depending on which one you click first. These work the exact same way. Now we're going to take and type dim SE1. So we're doing dimension, suppress, extension line 1. Or we're going to tell it, we're going to click here, but you're not going to draw that thing. Okay, you're not going to draw it. So I would then, once I type that in, you're not going to see anything happen. Mine says unknown command. That shouldn't be unknown. What's that? Oh, yeah, okay, I got to talking again.
Mine says engineer guide.
dim SE1, and it says give me on or off. When you see on or off, can you type numbers?
No.
I can try.
0 is generally off, 1's on.
Okay, 0.
Okay, or you can type 1 or on, or off or on. So I'm going to hit a 1. Now let's go ahead and place dim linear. Okay, so I'm going to click dim linear, grab my thing, get it a ½ inch off. And that should be what you see. Now we're going to use datum dimensioning here. So I'm going to go into dim baseline. Okay. Okay. This time it recognized the right one. And I'm going to click all of them except for the last one. Okay. And then stop it. Okay, so you should be looking like this. Now, if you use your up arrow, that will go through the last command you did. So I think on this one, we're going to have to hit that up arrow 3 times to get back to dim SE1. Or you can just retype dim SE1. If you're a fast typer, do that. I use the arrow keys because I'm not a fast typer. Then hit. Now, once you hit that enter, turn it back off. Okay, so hit a 0 or type in off. And then I'm going to, I'll wait just a second. What's that?
Just go linear.
No, I don't want to do linear because then I've got to calculate that 3/8 offset.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, so it takes work to me to go to baseline, let it calculate. So now I'm going to go back to baseline. And I must have a typo, mine stayed off. Let me go back to that again. Dim SE1. And got it off. Yeah, it's just suppressed mine. Did it suppress your guys's?
Yeah.
Enter.
I don't know why I did that.
Oh, mine's still suppressed too. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like the first time that's ever happened.
Okay.
I'm going to reset it. I want to show you one other thing that went on. Yeah, it's not on anymore. When we typed in dim SE1, I got this new thing up here that says style override. Sometimes you got to come back and default it. Okay, this didn't come up in version 18, so 19's got a little bug in here, or something's working a little bit different. And all we'd have to do is reset it, this would go away. The other way to reset it is if you come in here to your dim style dialog box, click Mech 1, hit set current, and it says, hey, do you want to get rid of these overrides? Okay. I'm going to say, okay, yes I do. Maybe we might have to go dim linear here. Let me try my dim baseline one more time. I've got to select. Now it's not working. We're going to have to do dim linear. Darn it. All right. I'm just going to do dim linear. And I have that back on, and I'm going to have to use my O track. We're going to grab that guy and then go to 0.38. Come on, snaps, work on it.
Oh, mine did that in
The thing that, maybe I better show you the other way. We've got something going on that's new with this version here, and I'm not sure what it is. I'll track it down. But I went back with dim linear with that unsuppressed. Okay. Now, all of these are suppressed. I have no lines under here. I got one extension line from my last one. That's in essence what you wanted to get. Now, there's actually a better way to kind of do this, and let's just kind of back away from that. Boy, I've had to do this twice this morning. Let me run you another option here. I'm going to use linear, and just kind of watch me for a second, and I'll give you a chance. 5, Now I'm gonna go baseline. And we're gonna place them all with arrows, or lines. So I just go through and click them all. Now, what I then do is I'm gonna bring over my properties dialog box. I'm gonna select everything but the last one. All those, I know that's under lines and arrows. And so I come down here, extension line 1, and I'm going to turn them all off. Okay. So I selected everything except for the top one, see that? And then I'm going to come into there, turn them all off. Okay. Now they're all gone. Okay. If I take this guy and delete it, you're going to see they're gone. And that's probably an easier way to edit it after the fact, as opposed to using an override. So give that a try if you would. Just use dim linear for your first one, dim baseline across, select everything except for the very outside one, go to your properties dialog box. You will find it in the lines tab in your properties. Okay, so I'll pop it up. Lines and arrows, you're looking for that one. Extension line 1, right here. And turn them all off. There's only one more command in here. Yeah. We're more and more going to the world where we don't use overrides beforehand, we use this after. It's too fast.
Oh, okay.
All right, only one more thing to go over here in this chapter. QDIM. A good place to start, don't expect this to get things right. Okay, this is a start place. Quick dimension. Pretty much all CAD packages have this. Let me just show you how it works. It's right up here on your annotate ribbon. See where it says quick? It's got a little lightning bolt underneath it. Okay. So like I said, this is a good place to start. You're going to be editing stuff. So I'm going to click on quick. On the command line, if you would, go ahead and click on it. Down on the command line, it says select your geometry. So I'm going to use a crossing window, and I'm going to grab this whole top, and I'm going to make sure my crossing window gets all those little cuts I've got in there. Now I'm done selecting my geometry. Hit enter. Now based on where you go. Right now it's in a chain or continuous setup. If you want to switch it to baseline, hit B enter. Okay. Hit C enter for continuous. Now you probably want to snap points so you get these on the right elevation, but I usually, just to tell you the truth, I just come up and throw them out here. Okay. Now I want to leave one of these undone, right?
Yeah.
And do an overall. So then I would come in, take this one, delete it. Gotta get out of QDIM. Get that and delete it.
So they're not associated with each
No.
other? Wow. Okay.
They are associated with the geometry. So like I said, a good place to start. Now I need that first row a ½ inch off. So I'm probably going to come out here and draw a line and do an offset of 0.5. There is a spacing dimension to it, but this is quicker. And then I'll use the stretch command. Grab all these, drag them from there to there. And I've now got my first row set. Okay. So it's a good place to start with QDIM, but keep in mind you will be doing some editing on them. You can go baseline, you can go continuous, whatever you want. Yes?
So if you edit the geometry, your dimensions will follow.
Yeah, sort of. Okay. It varies.
Okay.
Use stretch command.
So if you've already got, if you're already out 3/8 and you need to go out a half, do you just do the math and do that subtraction, or are you able to have it figure that for you?
Let me restate this back to you, see if I'm understanding you correct. If I have a scale drawing Do I have to set it off the distance accordingly?
No.
Okay, restate that then, please.
So as you've drawn these, the first one is at 3/8.
No, it's a half.
No, but I mean, it did 3/8 before you changed it.
No, it didn't. It placed wherever I clicked. The first one, I've got to place it. Dim baseline has nothing to do with that first one. Nothing. It only affects the dim baseline variable. That's why I use dim linear at the start, because I got to place that thing a ½ inch off. And if I got a scale of 1 to 2, I place it 1 inch off. If I got a scale of 1 to 5, I place it 2½ units off. I'm applying that DSF to all those non-geometric items.
So after you place that first one and then you use your baseline, is your scale factored in with that?
It is,
Okay.
because it's annotative.
Perfect.
Yep, so once you get that first one placed, everything's golden. Another reminder of why knowing these fractions are so important. Because if you want to use 2 dim linears, you're going a ½ inch and then 7/8, right? And you know that's 0.875. So I can set that off with 1 click and not have to pull a calculator out. Then I know the third row is another 3/8, so that's 1 1/4 inches. All right, that in essence covers those first 2 chapters. If you never had a chance to go through them, go through them. I kind of butchered the rotation option on the dim linear. Go through that, make sure you understand it. That's really chapter 20 on suppressing lines and using variables after the fact, so I won't say I really butchered that one, but I did. Anyway, go through those 2 chapters, try and get to the next one. 18, it goes into, it's got some great stuff. It does dim diameter, dim radius, and it gets into your M liters. We're going to go through 18 tomorrow. Please try your best to pre-look at it. You'll get more out of the lecture if you do. All right, thank you for your time. I'm done. Any questions for me? Okay. You will get some assignments tomorrow also.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.